Recording is in progress. Happy Monday. Good morning. Welcome to February, everybody. We're a 12th of the way through 2026 already. It's wild. 1 month in. And I mean we kicked this month off. I mean, January, you guys did a great thing. Mike and Mike, you wanted to get everybody pumped up to start 26 with the Jared James event, which was a massive success, I think, all across the board. We got a lot of people in, got a lot of people, pumped up. I'm looking at my pending board for the portable office, and it's been a great January for people.
Mhm.
I can see that, and hopefully it's like that kind of across the board.
It is, yeah. Right now, we're almost tracking double of the pending sales that we were in January of 25. So,
Wow.
and you can attribute that, to the market conditions and interest rates being almost a point lower. But also, not entirely. I've talked to other brokers out there, and they're not as busy. I think our team's motivated and ready to kick some butt this year. And coming off that Jared James event was like the fuel we needed to really get going, is like rocket fuel. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, I'm really, really encouraged about the start to this year. I think we're going to have an amazing growth year across the board.
No, I definitely got pumped from that. And I know a number of the agents that I spoke with and you guys spoke with as well felt the
Mhm.
same way.
Yeah.
And, we had really good success last year with the first couple iterations of the book club. And, we were debating, all right, what's going to be the next thing? Because it was a success. We got people up on Monday mornings to start their day and start their week right. So you guys came up with The Power of One More by Ed Mylett here. It's about 19 chapters. And the way we're going to structure this, everybody, is we're going to have different guests each week. So I'll be right here in the driving position, but on the other side of the screen, we will have different individuals from each office coming on board. But we wanted to start with Mike Allen first. Mike, you've read this book before. You've read
Yeah.
it. Have I heard multiple times?
I've read the hard copy one time and listened to the audio another time. So I've gone through the book twice now.
Gone through the book twice. Mitz and I, we were discussing, and Tony was on it as well. Um, Audible books, for whatever reason, I can't do it. I try. We're in our cars so much, driving from place to place, and I wish that I could. I'll listen to podcasts, but I do need music from time to time. There's a colleague that listens to nothing, no sound. They want dead silence because they're on so much, and that's the only time they have to themselves. So they want just pure silence. I'm the opposite. I like noise. While I was reading this book last night, had my headphones on, had the ambient noise going on. What I listened to would probably, freak everybody else out as my ambient noise. It's just a lot of like scores from cinema. That's just ambient sounds, but that gets me in the right place. That gets me in the right mindset so that I can focus on reading the book. And I'm glad that I did. It really got me going. I didn't want to stop when I did. And, right now we're going to start with chapters 1 through 7. Um, there's a ton of takeaways. I mean, the notes that I was taking during it and I started highlighting throughout, I couldn't stop, honestly. I was texting with a few different people as well during it, just saying, wow, how are we going to fit all this in to 1 hour? Because there's a ton of takeaways. We could discuss this for a couple hours, but we're going to keep it tight for everybody. We'll make sure we stay at that hour mark. Mike, why did you first read this book, for instance? What got you to this book?
Well, yeah, I mean, good question. I mean, I do a lot of books. Most people know audio and printed copy. I try to do somewhere between 25, 30 books a year, and just always keep going. And I also do podcasts as well in between. I'm too cheap on Audible to buy more than one credit per month. So when I'm expired, that credit's expired, and I can't sit down with a book, a hard copy. Yeah, I'm driving around like you guys are talking about. I'm listening, always listening to something that's going to empower me, that's going to educate me, that's going to make me better, things that I want to learn about, that I want to grow in. And a lot of you know about my series on Instagram, Think Tank, and I've had pause that series. I will be starting it back up, but I do call my truck the Think Tank because of that. And one of the gentlemen I've listened to and followed for the last 10 years, who's become a mentor of mine, is Ed Mylett. And some of you have heard of Ed. Others are like, who the heck is Ed? And Ed's basically he's this renowned entrepreneur. He's a peak performance coach, author, has one of the most successful self-improvement podcasts out there called The Power of One More. And or the Ed Mylett show, but his theme is The Power of One More, which is the theme of this book. And he started as just from scratch, from nothing. I mean, the guy was destitute, grew up very humbly, and literally, got out of college trying to get his career going. Faced evictions and had utilities turned off, and no running water, and having to take showers at YMCA's, and just really a humble beginning. But he came up through the World Financial Group, which is sort of a multi-level marketing type insurance and retirement company that's owned by Transamerica. And he became one of their largest affiliates or agents in the country with his group. And then ultimately became the company's CEO, marketing director, and then achieved a status of senior executive vice chairman, which is sort of the highest honor in the company. And he became a multimillionaire before the age of 30. So he's since kind of segued into this business strategy, leadership, personal development space. And right now he's followed by millions of people, including myself. And so he's about my age. I kind of resonate. I think we were both born the same year, in fact. And I'm jealous because he's fitter than I am. This guy's in great shape, but continues to inspire me. So that's why. And I think his theme, the theme of sort of his life and how he's really become successful, all hinges around one more. And the
Yeah.
core idea really, it's not just a slogan, because I know we've heard this one more philosophy before, but it's really about the small intentional actions that we take throughout the day. Just going that little extra distance will compound over time. And I think we'll see as we go through this book club series that it's not just a book about motivation, rah, 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 do one more. Come on, guys, we can do it.
Mhm.
Just go a little bit more. It's really digs deep down into our psyche and how we think about ourselves and the actions we're taking as a result of it. And we're going to talk about things about like our identity. What do we think about ourselves? And what's our thermostat level we'll be talking about. And then just things that we do. It's just really an honest self-evaluation of what we do day in, day out, that is either destructive or productive. And
Yeah.
the things that we're doing consistently to create ultimately our extraordinary results. We're really going to do a deep dive down into that. And I think, a lot of you, if we stick with this and you read the book and go through it, you're going to walk away with a reset. Like you will have a completely mental blueprint reset and be ready to just conquer this year.
I think so. Mitz, I'm back all the way. For whatever reason, my computer decided to crash, but I jumped back on the phone. And I did catch, just about all of that. And like you said, the reset, the different mindset. You start out just right there with identity. I mean, the first chapter in this is specifically that. One more identity is what it's titled, and it. Again, the notes that I took from it, I was doing parallels to Mad Men. That's one of my favorite shows
Yeah.
of all time because I was a show about identity, honestly, with Don Draper. Who was, Don Draper? And with this identity, it's one of the questions that it asks right here is, how identity shapes your behaviors. And the question that he asks is, what is identity? And, the definition that he has in there, what we perceive about ourselves is what we believe about
Mhm.
ourselves in that. And with that, that's again, it's what made me have that parallel. He tried to create this person, this persona, let everybody believe this is who he was versus what's actually like internally, what you believed about yourselves and how it can shape it, whether it's past experiences that guide your behavior now. And then that identity thermostat was, you said it right there too, which was something like, it was absolutely something that I wanted to highlight. It was talking about the identity thermostat. And with that, it discussed specifically of, you're in a room and you're too cold. Okay, so you want to warm up. You're in a room that's too warm. You want to cool down. And that goes with the associations of the people that you're with and how you regulate that, quite a bit.
Oh, yeah, and I think to pick up on that, relative to the thermostat, it's about your internal baseline for success.
Mm,
And where you set at comes from a lot of things, your childhood, what you experienced, your parents, the people that influenced you, like Adam's saying, the people around you in the room. And really your current thermostat level will dictate your baseline for success. So do you believe you can be successful? Do you believe you can accomplish certain things? And be in the context of real estate agents, do you believe you can be a highly successful salesperson and help a lot of people succeed in buying or selling real estate? And what is your baseline setting for, your income? And it's a common studied thing that a lot of people predict their income in their mind. So they seemingly, and this is particularly on a commission based, profession where the sky could be the limit, right? But you tend to make the same thing every year or right around that same amount of money, and irrespective of market, even
yeah.
if you may always make right at 50,000 or 100,000, and you're going, man, why can't I crack that 100,000 market no matter what I do? And it starts with that baseline belief system. Do you believe you're worth more? Do you believe you can achieve and make a higher income, or do you have things in their thermostat setting that say, well, if I make above this certain mark, I'm not worthy. That's imposter syndrome. And
Mhm.
B, I'm going to feel guilty about it because I really don't need any more than that, right? I'm going to feel guilty. What are my friends going to think when I make that much more money and then start spending it and buying nicer things? And really, your identity in the context of this internal setting is simply what you believe is possible, what you believe is possible about yourself. And if same results keep snapping back to you every year, then your identity hasn't changed and you have not reset that thermostat. So if we
You get
don't,
comfortable.
yeah, you just
And,
get complacent and comfortable with where you're at because maybe your basic needs are met, right? Your basic
mhm.
needs are met. You don't have a want. You've got the basic things in your life. Your family's got food on the table. You've got vehicles to go to and from places, and you can take that one vacation a year, and you're like, okay, I'm good. But you dream about more. You dream about wanting and having more for you and your family, and but it just isn't changing, and really, um, sometimes it's not about trying to, we're trying to rise to our goals, but really what we're doing is we're kind of stumbling back to our identity. And so we've got to get beyond that. And I think this book really helps us create a roadmap to getting beyond that and resetting that thermostat to an even more comfortable level for us.
Yeah, what the quote that I had highlighted in there is comfort is the enemy of growth. Right
Yes.
there. Like you said, it's you the complacency, of just everything that you're doing, you just get comfortable. Whether it's a Sunday, it's a Saturday, you have your daily routines and it talks about time management in a few chapters, which just as soon as I got to that chapter, it had your name written all over it. Um, but just that idea of, okay, maybe I am too comfortable, but do I want to grow? And what do I need to do in growing? And that's where, this chapter kind of does do that. It's not saying do all these things, but do maybe just one more thing, and that's, obviously the basis of the book, the power of one more, because you want to outperform what you did last year? We're talking about January numbers of how much we are over last year. And immediately we can already tell there are people who, didn't like how last year went. And so now they have to grow. So they are going to do one more. They're going to, adapt and evolve with their identities in that. We're sports people. We talk about this thing quite a bit. When people audible, you need to audible. You have to make this change in order to grow. And you can't let those failures, become the labels that, identify yourself. And I think agents, they tend to do that sometimes. They'll get stuck in the mud, and they won't focus on the future. They'll look in the past. And I think that's what just gets people stuck on that, rather than updating their identity, and making themselves believe that they can do more. And it's up to us to show up, just whether it's Monday mornings here, it's Friday nights with the client. It's on us to grow and to believe that we can, to update our identities.
Yeah, I think so, and I think we have to be careful because the average person, when they start achieving any level of success, they'll let off the accelerator and they'll be like, okay, now I can rest and relax and sort of revel in the glory a little bit and then get back to it on Monday. And what do we know about great high achievers? And or when we talk about just legends like a Tiger Woods, for example. Tiger, he used to win a lot of tournaments back during his peak, and you figured that when he wins the Masters, he goes back to the clubhouse and throws on his green jacket and ha has beers with the boys and has a good time. But no, right after he wins, what does he do? He goes over the driving range and hits 100 balls to try to fix some of the things that weren't going right during that tournament.
Yep.
And he did that day in, day out. And like Michael Jordan, we were mentioning at the beginning of this call, relentless Tim Grover in it. And Tim Grover was Michael Jordan's trainer for most of his career and helped Michael achieve just greatness. And Michael did the same thing. I mean, he would go shoot, shots, after games, and he would be there earlier than anybody, and he'd be there on weekends, and he would consistently be doing one more when others were already packing their gym bag and leaving. And that's what it takes to really break through to high level of success and really differentiate yourself from everybody else out there. And we weren't born to be average or ordinary. We were born to be great. And the bottom line is the greatness isn't always glamorous. I could tell
Yep.
you that. Sometimes it's lonely. I was just telling somebody this other day that, being successful and being in leadership roles, and you're all leaders in your own businesses, it is lonely at times because we're maybe at the office by ourselves doing that one more thing while everybody else is gone and at home eating dinner and or watching Netflix. But that's okay because you're going to get to a point where you're going to be able to have experiences that justify all those moments of solitude and pain or suffering and blood, sweat, and tears. It's
It's not supposed
absolutely
to be
worth it.
easy.
It's if it was, again, the saying goes, everybody would be doing it, right? If it was that
Exactly.
simple, everybody would be doing it, and they
Yeah.
don't, for good reason, because they aren't willing to go the extra distance and they aren't willing to be consistently doing one more.
Yeah, it's those habits, like you're saying, of what Tiger did on the range. It's always celebrate, guys. And we're not telling you, always celebrate. Take the time to celebrate. But think about, here's nobody's perfect, and everybody tries and strives to do better. Hopefully, that's what at least I want people to do. I look for that in people. I always want people to succeed. I know Mike, everybody else here, you root for people, especially for us in our offices. We're always pulling for those people, and we believe in them. That's why they're part of this brokerage, because they believe in us too, and we want to take
Right.
them there. Those habits. I mean, you're somebody, Mike, who you have the routines. There's things that you constantly do, and that has made you successful. Some of the habits that you do to make you more confident in your leadership. What was like one of the first habits that you just started and that you needed to do on a regular basis so that you could just keep going up?
Yeah, I mean, exactly. Success is based on your habits. Show me your schedule, and I'll show you whether you're successful or not, and what your issues are, right? And it,
Yeah.
it comes down to to that. I mean, are you showing up repeatedly and doing things consistently on a day-to-day basis, even when you're not inspired to do so? And it's really self-discipline. It's determining that this is what it's going to take. This is my schedule. This is when I need to show up. These are the things I need to be doing when I'm there, and I'm going to do them whether I like it or not, right? And most days, we're not inspired. It's like, man, I'm tired.
It's been
I
foggy for the last 9 weeks
yeah,
out here, and I was talking with somebody over the weekend. They're not sure if they want to live in the valley anymore. Like this is unprecedented, but it gets people in that
yeah.
funk. I mean, people have their own fog,
But it's an excuse though,
Right,
and I'm saying it's, be safe when you're driving, guys. I mean, don't speed to work, but the reality is our brain is constantly looking for reasons to justify, why we don't want to inflict pain or inconvenience on ourselves. And I think that's the danger of falling into that rut. And your mind filters reality based on your expectations. And
Yeah.
what expectations are you setting for yourself? What do you expect? And what it's basically you only, as Napoleon Hill said, what the mind can conceive and believe, that's what you achieve, right? And that's reality. And so what do you have going through your mind? What you think about frequently. Are you thinking about failure? I can't do it.
right.
And you're going to be right. That's what's going to happen. And the term is called frequency illusion. So what are we focused on? Well, like when we're going to buy a new car, we're looking at something where it's kind of honing in on that model of what you really want. And all of a sudden you see that same car all over the place, right? And because your mind is in tune with that. And before you would have never seen
Yeah.
these cars. It's like nobody drove them. And now every stoplight you come to, you see one of these cars. It's kind of funny. And that's how the mind works. It filters just based on what you're really focused on. And so what are your expectations and what are you focused on today? I think that's where it starts, even before self-discipline. And really, if you're focused on opportunities and the possibilities, even though you haven't achieved it yet, somehow they start coming your way. You start identifying them and you're able to act on them. And really it's about seeing what you're missing out there. But until we put the right glasses or lenses on and being open to seeing that, we're not going to see it. For me,
Yeah, I mean,
I've
you
just
lead us right into chapter two with
yeah,
that.
I hope so. Hopefully I'm kind of hitting this sequentially because that's how
No,
my
it is
logical
because
brain works.
as
Yeah,
soon as you said
yeah,
frequency illusion, it
yeah,
alludes to that in one of the other chapters. But I
yeah,
mean, he wrote an entire chapter. Spoiler alert, guys! One of the chapters is named after the Matrix. Uh,
yeah.
it's
Correct.
it's it's one more and living in your Matrix, and it's legitimately based about the movie The
Yeah,
Matrix. Which, if you
yeah. He
haven't
loves the
seen it,
Matrix. Yeah,
I'm sorry to spoil something that was made in '99, but we may do some spoilers here. There's been enough time. I love that movie. It's a huge fan. I've always been a huge fan, and there's one specific quote that I've taken it with me since the movie came out. So I was excited to see this specific, chapter in it because the theme of this one is about your environment. Your environment, is programming, your training, like you're saying, we are a product of our environment a lot of the times.
Mhm.
And one of the questions, I mean, he quotes a lot of the movie in there, except for this one. It's when Morpheus and Neo are speaking, and a quote that Neo says is, he doesn't believe in fate because he doesn't want to accept the reality with which he's presented. He wants to create. He doesn't want to just accept, which people can do. They tend to just accept what they're given, whether it's something bad, whether it's something good. And most of the time, it's if something bad happens to them, they just accept it, and they just let it stick with them. And that repeated exposure, it shapes the belief, the frequency illusion, they're constantly seeing that. So they're constantly focusing on the negative things, the bad deals that happen, the transactions that could have gone this way, their deal that wasn't accepted, whatever it may be. And that just creates the belief system within them that maybe this is, all that it's there rather than, seeing, okay, that was this versus here's what I'm going to make it be and want to change their environment. And like I said, the reality, I want to create my reality. I want to create a successful office. I want to have successful agents. And so that's going to be my matrix that I've created for myself.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, I think that that's where it starts, and then really that's the thought process of really unlocking that possibility first. And the moment we unlock that and walk into the matrix, if you will, to keep the theme going, is where you're able to kind of really shape your reality.
Yeah,
And it's almost like what the Steve Jobs, what he was renowned for. A lot of people talk about his reality distortion field because he would think of a concept that seemed outlandish, that was not possible, and people would be like, "Yeah, right. There's no way. What is this guy crazy?"
right.
And then he would set what people felt was an unrealistic time to achieve it. And
Mhm.
then guess what happened? He really inspired his team to believe that it could be done, and they were able to perform miracles and move mountains and create world-class products that never existed by virtue of the fact that this particular leader was able to see and help others see that it could be achieved and what they've been missing and sort of reset that mental blueprint and that's really what we have to focus on and not let all these external things dictate our reality. So when we, as a
That's the
company,
signal versus the noise that we've been talking about for the
well,
last year.
exactly. And we could there's companies that did well this past year, and there's companies that failed miserably this past year and even went bankrupt. And I feel that those leaders decided their fate in the beginning, and then their actions just simply reflected what their thought process was that was going to
Exactly.
happen. Whereas we said, no, this is what we're going to do. Guys, I mean, we don't talk about our back office and strategic planning often, but we ended up within, 1 to 2% of all of our forecast metrics, the end of 25, that we set in December of 24. Do you think that was coincidence? Do you think that that's just luck? There's no way. And we have done that in the past as well. I mean, it's not unheard of for us to finish that closely, but it's because we programmed that and we set our thermostat at that level. I wish we would have set the thermostat a little bit higher. In fact, now that when I saw those numbers, like maybe we shot too low, right?
Well,
But
it's again, but
yeah,
now it's gonna
yeah,
look,
yeah.
you're now growing. You're thinking about the next
Right.
one. Next time you do that,
Right.
yeah. You
It's
think
moving
about those.
that thermostat up each year and each time to improve upon that. And that doesn't matter. I'm not setting that strictly, and we take into consideration, but not setting it based on indexing against what the market's going to do, what the Feds are going to do with rates, what's happening with, the economy, world events and tariffs and wars. And, we just say, this is what we're going to do. This is how we're going to get there. And we're going to focus primarily on that. And that's what we should be doing as agents with our own clients and sphere is be out preaching the advantages of buying or selling now and making that move. There's no good time to wait, and controlling that narrative and creating this reality distortion field to show our clients what's possible today. And stop listening to the noise. Stop listening to the naysayers and your brother-in-law who seems to know more than everybody else about all things real estate and economies. But stop that. We shape and dictate the reality, and that's how you succeed and do great things.
That's the product of the environment. It's talked about kind of throughout the book so far is, the that circle. People have their circle of trust, they've got their circle of friends, they have their inner circle, and then that circle just kind of expands, 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 and it kind of depends on, what you're listening to, what you're taking advice from, what you're listening to, because all
Right.
of that noise, it changes your perceptions on a number of things. But, in chapter 3, it's one more try. One more try is the theme of chapter 3, and it's basically saying, that the your persistence, persistence that we're doing every single day, that's going to separate you. You don't
Yep.
want to be, I mean, you talked about that just a few minutes ago, about being average. We're not born
All
to
right.
be average. That's going to separate us from those that are. And if people want to be average, hey, by all means, but for us and wanting to be successful for everybody here on this call, we don't want you to be average. We see something in you that will separate you from everybody else. And make you successful in that.
Yeah,
It's going to have those
I think
breakthroughs.
yeah, and what we have to understand about ourselves when we start comparing, and that's the dangerous, the comparison game is a very dangerous one. Well, they're smarter, better, more
Yeah.
educated, been doing this longer. And I'm here to tell you by firsthand experience that, performance matters more than talent. I mean, how you perform, how you show up every day, what you do, and the distance that you're taking it to matters more than just pure education or talent. And you'll find the average person, I don't care how smart they are, they will tend to quit something when it gets really hard
Yeah.
right before the breakthrough, right before they achieve significant success. They will tend to quit. They won't do that one more. They'll just be like, I'm done. It's like, again, the cartoon where that we grew up watching where the guy's mining, in the mine for gold, and he finally gets so far, he's sweating, tired, and he just shrugs his shoulders, turns around, and starts walking the other way. And then you got the other guy mining the other mine that gets there, but the guy that quit, he was a foot away from finding the gold. Had he just hit that pick one more time, he might have broke through and found the gold. And really, it's momentum in anything is about consistently staying in the game and understanding that success is an infinite game. It's an infinite game, and a great book by Simon Sinek called that Infinite Game. And we're never going to achieve a pinnacle as long as we're growing and moving forward, right? And so we're always going to be working towards something greater and greater because our thermostat will always get bigger and bigger and go up. And if we let it, if we have that thought processes,
Mhm.
and I think lead generations in our business is a perfect example of where people stop short because they'll be gung ho and make contacts and talk to people for a week, maybe 20, 30 people a day, depending on what your goals are. And you get nothing, right? No leads, you get hung up on, you get just rude people, and you're like, oh my gosh, it just doesn't work. I'm not getting anywhere with this, and then you just stop at some point. Well, this just doesn't work. And the reality, you were just probably right on the brink of getting a yes, but you didn't go far enough. You didn't go that one more to get the yes. And that's where the rubber meets the road. That's where the separation happens, is what you mentioned, chapter 3, one more try, is those that keep doing that one more try, maybe that one more contact per day. That's 5 extra contacts a week. That is a differentiator right there.
It's the compounding effect
Mhm.
that you talked about earlier, right there. The growth is compounding slowly. In this chapter, one of the things that I highlighted on there was the pinata. What is your pinata? It's the takeaway from that was it's everything that you said. It's invisible progress is how it was defined in the book right there. That invisible progress. That miner who's right there. They're ready to break through that growth that's been compounding. Just it keeps going and going and going. For people who hadn't had a chance to read the book yet, in this chapter, it talks about he was at a kid's birthday party, and you've got kids who are just swinging. They're making their dents on that pinata, just waiting for it to burst, knowing it's going to eventually burst. And that's what Mike's talking about. Just those little hits. Every little one of those makes a difference. It's mattering, it's slowly just catering, and then finally, bam, that breakthrough happens right there, and the pinata bursts. And all of a sudden, the candy, the reward, whatever it may be, that's what actually comes through because of that compounding, that growth that just slowly builds. Every little hit on that is making a difference, whether you see it or not. And that was the idea of the invisible progress of it is a lot of times you can't see it. It's just one of those things. It's in your mind. You know it's happening, but because you can't see it right in front of you, it doesn't feel real for a lot of
Right.
people when in fact it is because you are making that difference. You are doing that one more thing, that one more try. That repetition is just building the confidence. It's building the skill, and that skill builds belief. That belief builds courage, and that courage makes you want to do that one more try. And then finally, like he
Mhm.
was saying, that miner, he gets to the gold, and there it is.
Yeah.
It's the sweet success that's right there.
Yeah, and really, exactly. And I wish it was simple as just thinking these things and they all come true. I think you talked about the time management component, which obviously, I'm huge on, and I've developed a time management program called Quantum Time Management.
Yeah.
And I feel still, it sounds cliche, but I still feel time is probably your most valuable asset in what you do with it, right? So and how you perceive time, not only what you do is affects your performance. So
Yep.
how do you look at time? And most people look at time as just simply linear, and they don't understand that they can control it just by perception and then by their actions. And if you don't have any structure in your time or what you're doing day in, day out in your business or life in general, it's just going to be complete chaos, and things aren't going to happen, and you're not going to get traction. And and a lot of people like, well, I got into real estate just to, kind of have that freedom to do what I want to do and to be where I want to be and to be involved with family and kids sports and different things,
Yeah.
and but they're not making any money, and then now all of a sudden, having those experiences is getting expensive, and they're restricted on what they can do. And I'm here to say firsthand, and a lot of you on this call know this to be true: structure creates freedom. Structure creates freedom, because when we control what we do day in, day out, and when we do it and where we're doing it from, that's what creates the freedom, not just like not having a schedule that you're putting yourself in a prison. It's kind of
Yeah.
counterintuitive. You're actually putting yourself in a prison when you have no structure. And so when we talk about time management, Ed does it in a way similar to what I do, but I still haven't conformed to his way of doing it. But
Yeah. His
he,
in chapter 4, it's the
yeah,
five principles
yeah,
of time management.
yeah, yeah, exactly. And I mean, I'll let you cover the five. I don't know
Oh, I
them
didn't
off
even
the
write
top
the
of my
five because
head,
I've got a quantum
but
time management book. I've got a quantum real estate book right there that talks to
good.
me about
I'm
time
I'm
management.
glad you're following my program. But what Ed does is and I like it, and I kind of do it as well, but I do it in 90-minute increments. But what he does is he creates 3 days in one.
Right.
So he has his first part of the day where he schedules his work activities, and and gets up and does his morning routine to get ready, and then gets in and does his high level thinking work activities. And then his second day he gets into activities that don't require as much focus and cognitive ability, because your cognitive ability kind of degrades as you get throughout the day because you just start getting
Right.
tired, right? You got to find what your peak performance. His is that first part of the days where his peak mental
That
performance
first
is.
30
But
minutes.
so
Yeah.
right. So then he knows what to do the second part of the day, which is about 4 to 5 hours in the afternoon, which is meetings. And then he has a third part that's all family and personal driven. And he doesn't let activities cross over into those other days. So each day is designed to be really concise, really focused, and these are the type of activities I do in that day. And living 3 days in one, he gets three times the amount of days as the average person is the way he looks at it mentally. I'm actually able to get 3 days worth of work and life activities that are important done in everybody else's single 24-hour day. And I
Yeah.
think that is powerful. And that's where your perception of time changes and what you do. How many of you are guilty of knowing that, okay, I'm going to work all day, and if I have to work past 5, that's fine. I mean, I'll get it done. And inevitably, you work past 5. I mean, you get home at 6 or 7 because you already programmed your mind. I got all this time to get stuff done, so you weren't as concise, you weren't as protective of your schedule. There's a lot of downtime. There's a lot of allowing a lot of Gata minutes. There's like go hang out for 2 hours having lunch with your colleagues. And you basically you create that day.
Hmm.
But then what happens, which I call the vacation effect, before you're getting ready to go on a week vacation, that day before you go, guess what happens? That's most people's most productive day of their year is the day before they go on a long vacation because they've mentally said, I've got to get all these things done in this short window. And it's possible then, right? So why don't we do that every day? Why don't we do that? So Ed has said, hey, I'm going to create 3 days and make sure I get a whole day's worth of things done in each of those days. I think that's huge.
Yeah, scheduling. I mean, you said it earlier, show me your calendar. I'll show you whether or
Yeah,
not.
I'll show
Yeah.
you. And if you don't have a calendar, I mean, enough said. I think the conversation's pretty short. It's like you're going to fail. I'm sorry, I don't mean to be harsh, but if you don't have a schedule that is scheduled to be highly productive and matches that thermostat level you want to be at, it's like the thermostat is not hooked to electricity or has no batteries. It's just worthless.
Yeah, busy work versus productive work. We've talked about this for sure in the past. People will, they'll look busy. They'll tell themselves, "Yeah, I'm doing this. This is busy work." But is it productive? Are they doing something that's actually going to make a difference versus just, going through the doldrums of that, rather than focusing on the high impact things that could make their day the successful, element? Because time, it's such a valuable resource. It's what we have. It's what we can't get back. Nobody can ever get back time. You can get back money that you've lost, money that you've earned, whatever it may be. But time is the most valuable resource. It's the most valuable asset that we have, and we can never get it back. So you can't take it for granted. And I think, both principles between your book and what Ed is saying in this one as well is, it can be replaced. And just, remember that. So make sure you're structuring it in a way that's going to make you, productive, successful. And once you see that it's structured and you have those calendars, guess what? Your day is going to be a lot easier. It's going to be much more focused because you already know what's going to go on. There's going to be adjustments that have to be made. We know that things come up, but you'll know how to shift things around because you value time.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And
Yeah.
again, it's just each day as you're following that productive schedule of things, where are you going to implement the one more throughout the day to
Right.
continue to improve? So again, one more call, one more email, one more conversation about real estate. And then you get to the gym, whether it's the first part of your day or the latter part. And,
Mhm.
are you going to do that one more, minute at something, one more rep? That you don't really want to do because you're already feeling like you're a muscle failure. And where can you implement that throughout your schedule throughout the day that consistently compounds over time to help you grow exponentially? And just so when you are creating that schedule, that thought process should be integrated into it.
Yeah, and it goes to chapter 5 now, and the one more emotion. It's sticking with one more. And guys, if you haven't figured it out, it's about one more, doing that one more. And in 5, one more emotional or one more emotion. Emotions serve a purpose. What are the emotions that you want to continuously experience? What's going to separate? And it's the mindset, obviously. So me, and I've told this to everybody, I'm an optimist. I always will be, because the emotions that I want to experience, I enjoy happiness. I don't enjoy stress. Stress is not an emotion that I want to have. It's a feeling. It's the way a lot of people, unfortunately, you can't escape stress. But for me, I that's out of my mind. It does nothing for me. That's not an emotion that I want to have, and it's tough for most people to have that. I don't know what my mom did, bless her, that made me have that feeling. But it's something that I try not to have because it's going to have a negative impact on me. Because those emotions, they will carry on. You, I know that if you walk into a room, you look at three different people, just looking at them, you can already tell. their emotional state half the time. We wear it on our sleeve, we wear it on our face, and then the mood spreads quickly. It's contagious. It will get around to everybody, and then it eventually will drive your decisions for the day. And maybe you're making an emotional decision versus a logical decision, and those patterns can repeat. So, something that I took from this specific chapter on those emotions, he said, what are the five or six emotions that you want to experience? And I'm telling this to everybody on this call there, think of it like that, because that is going to change your mindset from, the
Yeah.
positive to the negative, or the negative to the positive. If you're focusing on those
Yeah.
things, that's what you want to experience. There's a good chance that you will experience that.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't understand the power of controlling your emotions and having that emotional awareness or that EQ,
Thank
the
you. Yeah.
emotional intelligence. And I struggled with it, particularly in my career and starting from the beginning of my career all the way through probably about my mid 30s. I really, I'd get hot over things really quick and had very little tolerance for nonsense and BS, right? And
Yeah.
but it didn't serve me well. I realized that in order to become, to use a Star Wars analogy, to become a Jedi Knight and really be powerful in the Force is about controlling your emotions
Mhm.
and really emotional regulation. It improves your decision making exponentially. So, it's as simple as, I can't believe this person just sent me this text. So I'm gonna fire right back something to shut them down and show them that I'm right. When the
Right.
reality is, you should probably wait a
The
minute or
immediate
two or
reaction. Yeah.
five and let your emotions simmer down, and then that's where the regulation comes in, and then send back a more logical, conscientious text. And that's if you even respond. You have to make that decision, but just having that awareness leads to control, and just having that control creates resilience in your business. You're able to operate off of what's right rather than just an emotional reaction, which most people, that's what they're trying to get out of you. And so sometimes it's about waiting one more minute before you respond or
Mhm.
reply, or not saying that one more thing that could get you in more hot water and really throw fuel on the fire, if you will.
Yeah.
So just having that ability to regulate that is important, and it takes work. It's not going to happen overnight because people are emotional. We're in a very emotional business. People are at big stakes. Selling or buying a
Mhm.
home
Yeah.
or big stake stuff. They're going to be emotional, and agents get emotional over because their clients are emotional, and some agents get emotional because they really need that $8,000 to $10,000 commission check because they've already spent it.
Yep.
And then when the deal starts going awry, they start attacking maybe you, the agent on the other end, like it's your fault, and that's an emotional response.
Yep.
And we can't feed into that. We have to regulate and have that EQ. And the higher your EQ is in business and life in general, and this applies to your relationships, your how you interact with your family, your friends. If you can control your emotional intelligence across the board, you are going to be much happier and more in control of your life, and you're going to control the narrative more. So it's just thinking about it in that context is powerful, and that gives you those super abilities. And I'm not saying I still don't blow it. I do. I mean, I do occasionally.
Everybody will. Yeah.
Everybody does, but then you have to reflect, like, okay, why did I do that, and how do I avoid that again,
Right.
in that
It's the
type of
growth. Yeah.
situation? And that's taking that one more step to figuring out, like, how can I improve? How can I not keep doing that,
Mhm.
right? And you just get better and better. I mean, that's and you know, you're there as leaders in your business to your clients, and they want to see a steadfast leader, somebody that doesn't succumb to emotion, somebody that doesn't look intimidated, scared, or frustrated when things are going wrong. When things are volatile and people are arguing, or the stakes are high, and then you have a leader that has a calm look on their face and is speaking calmly and authoritatively, I'm going, man, that's the person I want to follow. I mean, they're going to take me through this battle or storm, and we're going to get to the other side, and that's who I want to follow.
Well, yeah, I mean, you threw the Jedi Knight reference out there, so it's also in finding the mentors. It's finding your Obi-Wan. You
Mhm.
know, everybody's going to have
Yeah,
that mentor, somebody that they can reach out to, somebody that they can talk to help guide them,
right.
if necessary. That goes, with leadership too. So find the mentor, find your associations
Yeah, that's chapter
within the people.
six. Yeah,
Exactly. That's
one
the
more
one more
association.
association. That's the segues. I'm trying here, Mike,
You're
and you
good.
nailed
You are
it.
building up. I like it. Yeah.
But it's that association, and making sure that the associations, the circle that you have, that's shaping who you are. That's creating your standards. That's making your behaviors, that proximity effect, that we talked about earlier. It's that those associations that we have, it really reflects. And who is I've got multiple mentors. I've had people that I've looked up to for years and years and years, and I can still talk to them, which is a beautiful thing. And thankfully, I'm proud of the fact that I've had people throughout my career do the same for me. They look at me that way. And that's how I think each of us at our offices that are, leading these offices, we want all of our agents to have that same feeling towards us. It may not be Obi-Wan, but damn it, we'll be, that advisor. We're gonna, take you there. We want to be the ones to help you. We want to see you succeed. We want to see you
Right.
grow and be your mentor to help you learn and have those ambitions and grow. And again, that's the proximity effect, the associations.
Yep.
Get inside the offices. We've been saying this for the last couple of years. When you find yourself in the office, you're talking with your colleagues, you're making things happen. But these are the people within your sphere. That doesn't have to be the tight sphere right there, but they're still right there within that circle that you can connect with on a daily
Yep.
basis.
Yeah, your environment definitely influences your standards. And so the environment you're putting yourself in and day out and the people that are in that environment will influence your standards. I mentioned earlier, show me your schedule, and I'll show you your success, your outcomes. Show me the people you hang out with in your associations, and I'll show you who you are.
Yeah.
I'll show you who you are. And so I've always been focused on, I like working in office environments. I want to be in the game, around the energy, around great people, and that motivates me. And just same with the gym. I mean, I've got gym equipment in my garage that I set up during COVID, like a lot of people. It's dusty, it has spider webs. I don't do that. I pay and go to a gym because being around those people helps me do one more because it just pushes me watching them work hard, watching people lifting more weight and going longer on ellipticals and just doing like high intensity training, VO2 max training things. I mean, I'm looking at that going, man, this is what I need to be doing. I need to be around this. I need to be motivated. And that proximity shapes your mindset. It shapes your
Yeah.
standards. And your standards will rise with the right associations. So for me, I always want to be around, and I've made a point in corporate America and my second career in real estate to get around great leaders in the business and industry. And I'm blessed to have those associations even at a national level. I've been able to be around just these world-class leaders, like even the president of our company, Mike Needler, who I consider a friend, just being able to be in the same room with him many, many times. And I could call him right now on my cell phone if I wanted to ask for advice on something or get his input. That's powerful. And that helps me rise and elevate. And just having the right environment just shapes again your standards, influences your mindset. And it's important, as just the company you guys have chosen to be in, to associate with, to be
Yep.
a member. I mean, that's important. I mean, are your leaders progressive? Are they succeeding against the odds? Are they continually growing no matter what? And is their focus helping their agents grow? I mean, that's how you evaluate whether you're in the right environment or not. The problem is too many agents, particularly newer ones, just simply want to evaluate, well, what's my commission plan? It's like if that's the first question you ask, you're already failed. You've already failed in this business. If that's because that doesn't matter. What matters is who's going to take you to the level of success that you've never achieved before, to where the ultimate end result is you're a better human being, you're a better professional, but you're highly rewarded more than you ever had financially for getting to that point. That should be your focus. That should be your associations.
Absolutely. I mean, you end up outgrowing relationships, and you want to build yourselves into these better relationships. Be with, the best of the best. Right now, I mean, just last month, we're now we're a part. We are the world's largest brokerage. Combined, that's a powerful, powerful tool. Having that relationship is it's there. It's something that we can be proud to say that we're a part of. And I've on a personal, status, I've outgrown relationships with friends that I've had over the years, as I'm sure many of you have, to make sure that your circle, gets tighter, and maybe you're a different person than they are. Maybe you're growing and they haven't. And that's okay. You can still be, you're still friends with them. You're not saying, I'm never going to talk to you again. You just happen to outgrow them, and you find your circle
Right.
getting tighter and tighter to be representative of who you are and what you want to be. And that takes us to the final chapter of one more dream, the vision, fueling your endurance, who you want to be, and having those goals, having the mental success, wanting that mental success to let your dreams actually, become a reality. I love falling asleep because I have the best dreams. It's a gift, thankfully. I wake up smiling, and it's annoying as hell to others. But it's because I just immediately, again, that goes back to my optimism. But during the day, we talk about daydreamers, but during the day when you're awake, you're alive and you have that dream. Well, guess what? You're awake and you can actually make that happen right now. You're not in the sleeping state. You're not in another world. You're actually right here and right now. And so, how do you actually do it? How do you create that? And what are you doing to make it happen? How are you staying connected to that purpose?
Yeah, and I think that, it goes back to your big why. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why are we in this profession? And why do we want to go through everything it takes to be successful? And it's the big why, which is your dream. It's your dream of what you're trying to achieve, and that will evolve over time. Your big why does change and evolve, and
Yep.
tends to broaden. But if our dream isn't big enough, then our discipline isn't going to be there, right? It's got to be big enough to drive the discipline of doing what we do day in and day out. And having that dream or vision is what fuels the persistence and makes us show up on the days that we don't want to show up. And just staying clear again, about your dream and your big why. It's going to align that action, and making sure the things that we're doing are in alignment and not just benign, not, ineffective, or just busy work, if you will.
Yeah.
And it really, again, it dictates those daily habits, those little daily habits, and whether we're willing to even do one more. What is that? Is the dream worthy enough to keep doing one more each day, day in, day out? And that's why we as leaders in this company, we keep trying to remind you about why you started and what you're trying to achieve, because it seems like sometimes we forget along the way and we get discouraged and we want to quit when it would just take one more strike of the spike to hit that windfall of gold. And so I guess the challenge I'll leave you with, we're at 10 o'clock. There's three things, and I'll let Adam close it out. Three challenges or questions. Where are you guys continuously stopping short in your business? If you could just find maybe one key thing, that's the thing I would say. Just keep going. Just try one more hour of something, even if it's just per week. And then like what type of thing would that be? One more call, again, one more conversation, one more standard, one more, hour per week at the gym, one more hour, talking to family. Think about what those things are. And it's really, it's starting with these small steps, because we don't want to overwhelm ourselves. The problem is some people jump too far ahead. I'm going to do 10 more, or I'm going to do five more. I'm going to go from not going to the gym at all to have that New Year's resolution. Now I'm going to go 5 days a week, and an hour a time, because I'm committed. I'm ready. I'm really going to do it this time. And it's like, No. Let's just start with one more. Let's just make it easy and then build up from that because then that exponential effect it will change your habits of what you're doing. It's easier to change a habit when you start smaller like that than it is to try to overwhelm your reality, right? So that's my challenge to you. Think about something, one thing that you've been stopping short on and change that. Just do one more this week.
Bust through that pinata, guys. It's that invisible progress that we talked about earlier from one of the chapters. Yeah, that was a great hour. We dominated that conversation there. The chat. If you guys feel free to unmute now. It's like I said, that was the first 7 chapters of this book. It's a quick read. It's an easy read, guys. And if you want to do the audio version, it's an easy thing to listen to when we're driving. If you need that extra motivation. And think about what Mike said of what is that one more, what is that one more thing that you can do today. I mean, today's Monday, but don't think of it just as today. Have that same mindset going forward tomorrow, the next day, the day after that. And those are the habits that you will have. That's the consistency that will make that one more actually happen. We'll do it like you said with the New Year's resolution. Jared talked about it at the event. Hey, great, we've got this New Year's resolution. Why are we doing it just on January 1st? Do it February 1st, do it March 1st, consistently do it. That it shouldn't just be a one time a year thing, especially when you're building yourself and you want to constantly grow. Well, you may have already done that, so congratulations, your New Year's resolution. You had it finished on January 19th. Now what? Exactly, guys. So just think about that. One of the questions that I had on here was, from is what is the legacy that you want to leave in the dreaming and the one more. I know Mike with the book that was something that you wanted. That was part of a legacy for you that's going to live on.
Yeah.
That book will live on forever. It's printed. It's there for everybody. That's a legacy item, and for all of us here. We may not write a book, but there's something that we can leave behind to everybody. So doing that one more thing will help you get you there. So it's a great book. I'm excited to go on the next few weeks with this as well. My Gutierrez, we're going to be doing chapters 8 through 13 next week, and then we've got Sandra, we've got Larry, we've got Angela in the mix. It's going to be a good book club. Mike, this was great. I enjoyed our time. From the time we hit record, we're right at the 1 hour mark, Mitts. Yeah, if you guys have anything you want to add, now's the time. If not, then we will see you all on here on Zoom next Monday for the next iteration. Sales meetings. There's meetings happening inside your office. Talk to your managers. Reach out to your managers. We're here for a reason, guys. The two mics want us to help you. So help us help you. Please contact us. Let us know, guys. But with that, see you next week. Have a good sales meeting, and if I sell you, I'll see you on Zoom. Mitz, if you're still there, go ahead and stop that recording.